Right, so here we are. We're in the new Gong Place.
The new Gong Place. We've moved from the library. There were all sorts of reasons why that space was no longer doing it for us.
So we're going to give us a tour then.
I will. So,
right.
These are modern symphonic gongs. Each one is tuned. It's tuned very accurately to a note, which we associate with a planet. They've called the planets after gods and goddesses, so it sort of gives us another level to work at. This is the Earth planet gong. It's got the glyph of the Earth, the astrological glyph there. It represents Gaia, the Mother Earth, and everything that surrounds that. If I just start very gently. Could wait all day for the sound to diminish. That's the beauty of the gong, that we could go away and have lunch and come back and it would still be singing. There we go. Instruments now from different times. We've got very modern crystal bowls. These will sing, but they also strike. From Africa. The frequency of a good sistrum, when you shake it hard enough, actually is a frequency that will kill bacteria. So it's a cleansing instrument. And more, I suppose, I think Japanese, koshi chimes. And these are tuned, they've got little rods inside and each one has a different tuning. And this one represents water. And then of course, we've got the Himalayan bowls. And this is quite an old bowl, 200 or 300 years old. And then we have its modern counterpart. And this is a titanium bowl, made very recently, same principle but different materials.
Well, do you have a favourite thing? Do you have a reason why?
I'm not allowed to say.
You're not?
Because they would get upset. I have things that I prefer the sound of, and I have things which I prefer the energies of, and quite often they're different. And I have things I love the stories of too. So we have a collection of rattles and bells and whistles and chimes and all sorts here. But these instruments, if there's water in here, these are whistle vessels. We call, quite often they come from Peru. This is one's from Ecuador. And these vessels were used, well, we don't know what for, because they come from an era pre-Inca. So a lot of the records have been lost. We just know that they're very important. They recreate sounds, natural sounds, and they were found very close in their tomb finds. They were found very close to the bodies, either being on the chest or by the head. And the whistle vessels are more commonly known about, but we also have wind whistle. And then this one is a warbly sound. It's like the insects in the evening.
You could bring the things into the middle. It might be easier.
This is a conch or conch, and cut conches for playing have been found going back thousands and thousands of years, and in places where you'd least expect them, in the Himalayas, in the Andes, in places as far from the sea as you can get. But the sound is tremendous. It's calling people to ceremony, it's calling in your spiritual guides, and taking on the voice of the gods even. And if I blow it, and if you listen afterwards, in our space, you'll also hear the gongs responding. So we've woken the gongs up. The gong is a unique instrument in that most percussive instruments, when you strike it, you get the highest point of sound first, and then it dies away. The gong is unique, in fact, from when you strike it, it flowers for a while afterwards before it begins to drop off. And there's no other instrument I know of that actually does that. And the notes within a gong are multiple. So the fundamental note in the middle is, if you strike a gong in the middle, you get the same note every time. But if you strike it off center, there are an infinite number of notes, because the sound waves are all mixing up, and you get overtones and neutral areas. And the Greek theory of sound came from the spheres of the planets, that they believed that each visible planet was stuck to a glass sphere that they all interlocked in the heavens, and as the spheres turned, the planets moved in the sky, and they associated a different note with each sphere, and it was a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes. If you understood it, you could hear it. If you couldn't hear it, it meant you didn't understand it. And there were 8 visible planets, so that's where 7 visible planets, so that's where our modern octave came from. There is some archaeological evidence that talking about the flute, 39,000 years old, that our vocal range was very similar to how it is now, and as sophisticated. The hyoid bone in the throat supports the ligaments for the vocal cords, It's very fragile, so it tends to disappear very quickly. But they have found remnants of hyoid from remains going back to that period, and Neanderthal hyoid too, with a similar range of lumps and bumps on it. So the indications are that they had a very, very similar range of voice and used it. And people who play instruments always have been valued. The Bond people with the bowls, or something strung or something blown, it wasn't music, it wasn't entertainment. It was seen as having an energy and a power of its own. We'll just do some gongs. I think you can put this in or not, but I do put a firewall in between the things that I did last night and the things that we do here, because so far I've not found a way of reconciling the spiritual connection with sound that we have in this space and the more earthly connection with sound that we have in the other. So I tend to have a double life in that way. So one day we'll bring it all together.
Yeah. It's really double, so.
48